All right, everybody, we're going to call this meeting to order. Thanks for being here this afternoon. Kind of a short agenda tonight. We're going to spend a little time talking about classroom coverage compensation. That was the one that had come up at the last meeting. And spend a little bit of time finalizing our task force recommendations. Sound good? All right. Good deal. So, what are we thinking on classroom coverage compensation?
I know we left it at, I threw out 75, that's what you and I had discussed, but then there was more discussion around that's not the prep diet, prep times differ from building to building, so maybe using more of a calculation.
Like, in our building it's very different. Like, I was gone one day because I was sick, and I put in for sub, and the sub took it, and then she dropped it that morning. We didn't have time, and no one else picked it up. So then I had one of my team members took my class along with her class because the other ones had other things going on. So she had double the class, and nothing for that. But that was all day she had them. Mm-hmm. So versus she said like 75 for a prep period. That's more than prep. I mean, that's all day teaching 40 kids in one room. So we just didn't know how to make that work for elementary, and I mean usually it isn't covering just for a little thing. It's usually all day. You get all or nothing with us, where it isn't a period. So we just didn't know how that would work with the 75 that was suggested. So
what's our sub rate?
That would just be the sub cost.
Sub rate is 95 a day.
Well, we were talking about maybe
we're going to take it to the personnel committee and ask them to increase it. If that, well, yeah.
Okay, so just a couple insights that I'm going to throw out on the table for you. One would be, we always have that element in contracts, other duties as assigned. Okay, that'd be a piece of it. And I think if we turn around and said we're going to do the rate for a sub, then there'd be some questions about, but people are already being compensated for being here for that day. So I think we need to flesh that out a little bit before we just say, hey, they should get whatever a sub would get, and they should get something for sure. That is a long, tough day when you have to double up like that.
So in some of the research that I did, a lot of them do use that BA rate divided out by the BA step 1 divided out by the number of the days in the year to get or the days by the contract to get a daily rate, and then multiply that down by like an hour. You divide that by the 7.5, and then you get an hourly rate.
So what would that look like here then?
90. It's about $24 an hour. Well, it's more. It was like 24.60.
I got 24.65 in my head.
Yeah, it was 24.69.
You were good.
Have a class for
I
a
got
whole
26.
day. Like, that seems like a lot.
Well, that's the. Or you take that $75 and you divide it out. Divide it out by an hour to get like $9.38 an hour. If you're going to take something down an hourly rate to make it equal, to multiply it out by how many hours or minutes that somebody would be subbing for or covering would be another.
Are you still thinking of that $75 rate per prep period? Because that would be really a lot of money.
That is a lot.
For prep loss.
Prep loss,
So in some places, they'll fill a day by saying, teacher A has prep first hour, teacher B has second hour, and
That's common at the middle school.
Right.
Yep.
Which I get, but then that's 75 times how many, like 4, so that's like $200 a day that the district would be paying out versus if we could get a sub at 100. So we'd be paying twice as much.
Well, the point is you can't get a sub.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
point, is that you can't get a sub, so you're forcing somebody to lose their prep.
Yeah, okay.
So, what do we want to do with this?
I think the number is, I guess I'm not that concerned about the number, that sounds good, but was that kind of thinking about an hour and a half prep, is that what the high school level is?
They're all different.
So is it kind of,
Oh, I didn't, in my mind, assign it to any one building's time period.
sure,
It
so like
was
my
just-
prep's an hour, so.
Right.
You know, if
Your hourly rate is higher then at
I
that
got
point.
it.
I mean, technically.
I would be afraid
Exactly,
that that's
then,
gonna cost
yeah.
a lot of money, that's gonna pull away from.
Or how do you decide who gets the class?
Well, I don't.
You know what I mean?
I don't want them all, let me just say that, like, we
No,
try
but
to
there's
rotate.
4 of us, and Neil's gone, who gets her kids, so we
Well-
usually divide them up into 3 classrooms, not one person gets them all.
Well, then that would be different because you're pulling them into your class. You're not giving up your prep to go teach
Yeah.
her
Well, we
class
can't.
career. Right, so that
So in
would
our
be,
building, it looks different, but.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the thing, we don't know how to answer that as far as with our different situation than we
Mhm.
have.
We
the-
need almost 3 different models, wouldn't we, for
mhm.
that kind of?
I don't know.
I mean, you're getting nothing right now, right?
Mhm.
Right,
Right. So
we're hoping when we increase the sub pay that we will draw more subs and not have this problem.
hopefully, we just don't have a deep pool.
Right.
And no one else, not just in our immediate vicinity, but
Right.
all over the place. It's tough with subs. You know, you think back to when we talked about some of the few foundational things we had in this, it has to be manageable. So and it's not gonna work to have some calculation and a bunch of different rates. You know, if you don't like $75, you wanna do $80 or something like that, and we just say, you lose your prep, you get that.
But they're saying they can't lose a prep because they're not giving up.
In that scenario she described, where they split them.
And that
up.
happens,
That's
that's
what they
how
always
we
do.
do, because we
Is it
only
always
take our
like
grade,
that?
we only take our
Yes.
grade level, I would never go and take first grade.
Plus, you wouldn't wanna take kindergartners and move them from,
Yeah.
and
But
everybody
that's
has
what you're
the same
saying,
prep.
you don't lose your prep because you
No.
can't, you
Right.
just take the kids in to your class.
Right.
So it's like a full day of school outside of your prep and outside of your lunch that you would potentially have students, but sometimes it's a half day, sometimes it's a whole day.
That's why I think you have to get it to an hourly rate.
That's what I think.
But if we only each take 5 kids or 6 or whatever
Right.
at the elementary level, what does that look like?
And
Right,
that sounds
it's
like
not
it's,
an
that's
option
One
better,
each
anymore?
get the $24 an hour, you know?
Well, right.
that's still the best option for the kids rather than saying.
Well, right,
this
for
person gets
kids, you
$75
don't wanna
and
take a 40, child classroom. I mean, that just is not best
Yeah.
for them. So is there a different way to work it?
That's how they worked it today, because it was, the sub didn't show up, so they
They
had to
split
pay
them.
quickly, and that's what happened, but, yeah. Most of the time, we split it up, so,
Right, how about this? What if you had a figure for 1 to 3 hours or something like that? And then another figure for beyond that? And so it wouldn't be losing prep, it'd be, you're providing some coverage. Whether it's, you're taking kids into your classroom all day, or you're in the middle school or high school and you get assigned to cover down during your prep period.
just have to make sure it's manageable,
yeah, I
because
mean,
if
we
they
don't
sprout the kids to 4 people,
Then 4 people would get, they'd get to put in for it, so. That's a thought.
Because when you take them all day, right, Julie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get them for
The day.
They just enter into the classroom, they're part of the classroom.
Yeah,
If you did what you were talking about before though, when we figured out it was like $24 an hour, which came out to be like $185 for the day, could you just take that and divide it by the number of team members that took the students for the day, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it comes out to be like $62.
If you split them.
If you
3
split
ways.
You
it,
split
yeah,
it 3
3
ways,
ways.
it'd become less if it was 4 ways.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Which right now in our building is
Always
4 classrooms for. I don't know.
So how about non-elementary teachers then?
What's your prep, an
Okay.
hour at your building? Amy,
It
is
might
yours
be
now?
different for
Yeah.
just the fire.
An hour?
No, we have, it depends, so we have 2 42-minute periods, we have 90 minutes. And 5th and 6th grade, I think, is going back to that for next year. But like, we also talked about trying to go back to this model too, and when we can't get a sub, it's almost easier for the 3 of us to split up the kids and take 30 kids, and then just rotate those through those 3 classes. So
That-
we would like to petition that actually to Brad to see, he doesn't like to do that because that's a lot of kids in one class. But sometimes it's easier than trying to figure out who's gonna cover what and to try and see if 7th grade can come down and 8th grade can come down, and so,
So then it would be applicable, that same
Right.
scenario would be applicable to
right,
yours.
yep.
Oh, high school.
Well, we typically have that 88 minutes, you know. Depending on if you have lunch coverage or not, that might knock it down to an hour because you only get your half hour for the covering.
You rotate your lunches? Do they rotate lunch coverage?
Yeah.
No, so-
Can there be a partial pay or something,
Well,
like,
maybe every half
what
hour,
category are
maybe.
you in? Are you taking up a whole group, or are you taking up a partial?
Maybe take all.
I don't know. You take whole groups?
We don't right now, that's what we would like to do, because it's just easier than trying to find coverage and then make sure that that information gets relayed to whoever's coming in, and, you know, a lot of times what happens is, so if Ryan's teaching 7th and 8th grade, then there's 2 teachers that have prep, and instead of having one person cover it and lose the entire thing for our blocks, then they ask 2 different teachers to cover, so in the one, 90-minute class, you might have 2 different teachers come in, which gets kind of complex, and a lot of times, like, our schedule doesn't line up, so then Brad has to come down and cover, and then if Brad's late, our kids are either sitting waiting for someone to get there, or we have to leave the other kids unattended and tell the 8th grade teacher, sorry, gotta go, my kids are waiting. So it gets kind of messy because we all run a different schedule. So that's why we would like to take to Brad possibly running a model more like yours, because it would just be more efficient with use of time and the kids, and there's always 3 of us there no matter what, and there's always someone, because 2 of us teach ELA and 2 of us teach math, there's always someone there to cover 3 subjects no matter what. So that was our potential solution after going through this year and struggling. Now the year before it wasn't hardly an issue, this year it's been awful. We're either being asked to go up and cover all the time for other grades because we're the only one that has prep in the morning, or with we can't get a sub in ours, so who can we call down and how can it be covered? But either way, we could flip between either, like if they're doing an hourly rate, that would fit for us, or if we do,
So can the hourly rate just work?
Yeah.
I
does
mean,
it
in our
work for
situation,
So-
it's divided
high
between
school?
3 people.
So if we just said, so it'd be like $25 if we rounded up, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's say $25.
Mhm.
If you're taking a whole class, that's your
A
rate.
lot of money.
Mhm.
That's your rate. If students are, if a class is split, that's divided among however many teachers it's split.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
that's still $60 a day after taking on a
I
whole
know,
other set
oh,
of
yeah.
kids, and it seems more feasible and more realistic than.
Does that seem?
I think
Well,
yes.
that works.
Probably not gonna be perfect,
Say
but
25 an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much an hour?
Oh, 25 an hour.
Well, now that 75 just got a whole lot smaller.
Smaller, yeah.
I like the $75 an hour personally, for me, but
Well, who wouldn't?
it's a lot different, right?
Because it's
I'd
prep,
cover
though.
every day of the week. I
Yeah.
would. That's another 350 or 375 a week for me. I mean,
Does that mean
I
you need
would.
some more planning to do during your prep?
I can do that at home. I can't make money at home.
Sure.
I like 75, so it's kind of why I've been quiet over here. So,
I mean, who wouldn't?
exactly. I mean, if that's the number you guys came up with, I mean, not like you just
75
pull it
times
out of thin air.
7.5 hours.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't an hour, that would just,
Oh,
that was.
that
a-
would've
been-
That'd be-
So that was not
Yep.
for us.
That's for 90
That is not
minutes.
for us.
So it
Yep.
would,
90 minutes.
that would have been applicable to if you lost your prep, where in your case, it's not, that's not even, it's NA, not applicable, because you bring them in your classroom. classroom.
But still, if you have one teacher gone and you have to cover 3 of those, I mean, that's a significant chunk of change there.
Well, so it'd be cheaper than that for the district to not get a sub if they only have to be covered. Or you said
Well, it
25
depends.
25 an
If
hour.
you're- if you're
Oh,
going
25 an hour.
60
Yeah.
times
I'm-
3
I'm-
teachers.
I'm thinking of an
Yeah.
hour and a half.
Yeah,
Not an hour.
an hour.
It's still more expensive.
Mhm.
But so you're talking about $180
Yeah.
compared to $225 if I had to
Right.
cover.
I know, that's what's hard, is we're trying to find something that fits. Buildings are also different.
Yeah, it is different.
Yeah. So we just
We
want
need to have like one thing, that's the
I know.
challenge.
But that's almost $40. So you that's not appealing to have to cover for almost $40.
Myself probably would.
Right. It's so much better than the
But
nothing that we
I
get
probably
currently.
would.
Better than
Jump
the
in
zero you
50K.
get right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess I just don't, to me, that's not that bad, and it's so much better, like you said, than the 0 that we get now, and like, it's 75, I got that, but then at least too, like, you wouldn't give up your prep every day of the week then either. You would say, I might need my prep this week, and so-and-so can take it the next time, and, you know what I mean? To rotate it around more.
Okay, so I want to capture this. So we'd use that $25 an hour figure. If you take a whole class, that's your figure. If a class is distributed among teachers, that figure is divided by how many teachers.
Mhm.
Yep, and we do it on a sheet, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it'd have to be developed here.
High school folks, can you live with that?
That's better than the nothing
Yeah,
that we have right now. That's the. I'm just kind of thinking, even to myself, would it be worth the $25 to give up a prep getting ready for a lab or something? I'm not even sure if it would be right, but if I would have to do it, I have to do it anyway. Might as well get $25 for it.
Right.
Well, then really, it would be
Well,
almost
you would
40
be
if you were
40.
giving up 90, right?
Yeah,
If
it's
you're giving up
$25
the
an
whole-
hour, so
Right.
you'd be giving up 90.
Right.
So you would get more like.
It's like
$40.
$37.50
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
But we've typically just divided it by 3. You
Mhm.
know, we each take a third of it, so we still have some
Mhm.
time to be ready.
Makes sense?
This is only for when the sub job does not get picked up, because
Correct.
when Tammy's not here, but she has concern about people that leave for sports, and people have to cover for coaches that leave early, and I said, that sounds like it might be a whole other ball of wax.
I think that's something they need to talk about with their principal.
Good.
So with this 25 covered for sports related absences?
This is only applicable if you cannot find a sub, or if there is not a sub that's picked up your class. So this is just a lack of sub, so no, it wouldn't, because if you wouldn't find a sub anyway if you left early for, I don't know, if you left early for sports, you don't typically find a sub, do you?
Well, our
Not through
situation is a
ASAP,
little
no.
different. We don't through ASAP, we arrange it otherwise. And I was under the impression that that might work like that, so I often get, like, if Josh has to go for track, and then I've got a couple of classes, like, I'll ask one of the grade level teams to come in and help, but they'll often come in and say, you don't really need me, do you? And then we say to that. But if they said, hey, you got $25 coming out,
Yes, I
then
do.
they might be more willing to
See,
do it.
that'd have to be an athletic budget thing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
not a,
Yeah, we're not
not a
doing that.
substitute thing.
Yeah.
And that's really the way the issue came forward. People have to cover down when a sub isn't available. Yeah, so that, like, nobody likes,
Coverage is coverage,
nobody
though,
likes
you
getting
know,
hit
it's.
up all the time. Yeah, but it's for different reasons though.
So if we have a question about that piece, we should take that to our building level
I
principals.
would say so, yeah. I think there's different ways to get at that.
All right. You ready to go through this? So this is what, I would be presenting to, or if you guys would like to come, to the, Personnel Committee, which would be on May 7th. First Monday, yep, May 7th.
Now, how do the numbers line up compared to that Cumberland, weren't they topped out at 70 and, I mean,
I don't have it, yeah, I don't have it.
In your shared folder? or do you
Yeah.
have
well,
that?
yeah.
This is including and the applicable 2% to increase the, so we went, you know, on the low end, we went from 36,794 to 37,530, and on the high end, we went from 65 to 67.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering about, you know,
You
the
could-
attract.
You could look in that
aspect,
shared
yeah.
folder and you would be able to see those
Right.
figures.
Well, is it the model you're presenting or the numbers in the model as well? Are you presenting the model or just the model and the numbers?
And model and
And the numbers?
Yeah, we'll be going to the personnel committee, asking them to endorse this.
Yeah.
So it can go to the board and go in the employee handbook.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the flow.
Okay, so I was just kind of wondering about just the salary range of how close we are to neighbors. You know.
I thought that Cumberland started high and capped lower.
Okay.
I thought that's what it
Right.
was, because I remember thinking there's not a whole lot of range between what their starting rate was and their ending rate, but I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I looked at that, but
But if we get CPI, like
Yes.
small people,
Yes.
we should be able to catch up if they're not.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers continue to go
Right.
up on the CPI, so, yeah. All right, what else do you got?
Okay, so this is going to go for approval. The second piece that we talked about was the cash in lieu of. So for staff that choose not to take the district insurance, there will be a $5,500 cash in lieu of reimbursement given. This reimbursement will come in the form of a payroll benefit being applied to each eligible staff member's bi-monthly payroll check. Everybody okay with that wording? Reimbursement for committee membership. The district would like to recognize the work done on committees with the following tiered level of reimbursement. This is where I did not remember what we said, or if we had not
We
decided.
kind of left this up in the air last time.
The dollar amounts to fit in there and what was applicable. So let's come back to that. And then the last piece that I have is credit for years of service. The district will grant up to 5 years of service for incoming certified staff members. However, the district also recognizes that certain positions can be difficult to fill and that the board retains the right to grant additional steps or lanes if necessary. Everybody okay with that?
In lieu of, is that, would that $5,500 be excluded from what state pension recognizes as salary? I mean, how is that gonna work?
That is a Trish question. Unfortunately, I can't answer that. She can email you.
And is it-
I could take a guess because
Yeah.
it's. I would say no because
Okay.
it's being recognized as income. If it's being recognized as a benefit and income on your check.
Oh, okay, so it wouldn't be part of your 3 highest years then, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it would be recognized as income. So
Right.
if WRS recognizes, takes it as
Mhm.
total income, then yes, it would be
Okay.
applicable towards your 3 highest years.
Right.
So that is my guess,
Right.
and that would actually be Trish's question. So
That's
we'll
one
find
we
out.
can follow.
Yep.
Right, because I know that would change then maybe, does it change the contribution to,
Your WRS.
state, yeah, WRS?
Because your state is off of your base salary.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
254
Yeah.
and 650.
Because I know those final 3 numbers are pretty important.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of the,
Your
But I
3
think that's
highest.
based on your base salary.
Yep.
Right,
It's based on your
not,
base.
not all your others.
No, it's based, yes, yes, it's based on your
it's
base.
based on your highest 3 years.
You're talking about
Right.
2 different things. You're
Okay.
talking about
Yeah.
what you're paying in on your paycheck for
Yeah.
WS retirement.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
that's what you're talking about. You're
Yeah.
talking about your contribution
Yeah.
levels as you get closer to retirement.
Yeah.
It's your 3 highest, yes.
Yeah.
Is this
I'm just
what
wondering
you
if that
wanted to
55.
see with numbers, we are higher, Cumberland is like the only one that's higher than us. And
Yeah, can you hold that for me? There we go, all right.
it's a test, you can zoom it in.
Yeah, I have to do that too.
My arms used to be long.
Yes.
What's their end rate?
I could hold on for a
Yeah.
while.
Starting at 39, ending at 70.
Okay.
Hayward is,
Years do they go? Oh, that's a
I don't know, Hayward is 38 and ending at 63, Barron is 35.9 and ending at 64.5. Then there was Maple and Ladies Limit and Bloomer.
But we don't know how many years, I mean, ours can reach 72.
Sure. We don't know how many years they've been.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody's been froze up like you have here.
Not sure
No.
this
No.
amount of time.
Yeah, I don't think so. So, you know, that's a good insight. You get a few years of CPI
Right,
increases.
and you're gonna have it up there.
Okay, let's go back to this.
I'm sorry.
Anybody remember this?
Oh,
Yes.
we remember that.
Okay, I don't remember what we did.
Well,
We
remember
did
what?
250, I think, it was either 4 or 450, and 650 was the top.
Yeah.
I think you did them backwards though, I think level 1 was the 650,
Was it?
right?
Okay.
And then
Yeah. You took the numbers from something that was already in place,
in the
right?
handbook. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think we were gonna use those numbers, but if that's, that. You guys remember now, little that I remember. So level 1, what would that would be a board-directed
Yeah.
committee.
And it have hours
I
attached to
thought
it
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
More than 30 hours. Do you want me to pull it up in the handbook?
I had it on my business on my computer. I'll just type it in there for now. And then my only concern is board directed, but yet, you know, we don't want the same people being on, because that's pretty lucrative. So the same people being on the same committees over and over and over and over. So that would be at the discretion of whoever the committee chair to try to disperse that out. Is that?
Yeah, the board always asks, in my short time, you know, when we brought like the membership for these task forces forward, calendar committee, handbook committee, they have always asked, you know, if people are on more than one of the committees, so.
Okay.
I think we need to, there needs to be some balance. We need to give everybody an opportunity, but if people don't do it and someone's gotta do more than one committee, then
Okay.
I think that's the way it needs to be, because the work needs to get done.
What was level 2?
Building directed?
Building directed. Let's talk about this for a minute though, because there are a lot of building directed committees, right? Isn't that part of the discussion that we had?
It was supposed to be on the principal to manage that one.
Principal to manage? Was there an hour? I'm just making those.
The current handbook says 20 to 25. Well, it's
That
kind
could
of
be
the
20 to
split.
30 probably.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. Well, and the top one, I think, is currently listed as 35 to 45 in your,
Is that where we're gonna go?
So
This is gonna have to be-
on that building one, do you wanna say 20 hours or more? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Do we have any board directed committees that are more than 30, that are 35 to 45 hours?
I'd
I'll
say we'd
give
be
you an
pushing it.
example. That, and, you know, lots of new stuff this year, but you know, folks work on the English language
The
arts
English
curriculum,
language.
they'd hit that mark pretty.
Mhm.
Level 3,
it's 10 to 15 hours.
what do we decide on? What do we decide on criteria, does anybody remember?
Border building, both?
I think this is the one that hung us up. I think that we were talking about this is where we started the discussion, like at the middle school this year when Brad came in, he told us that we all needed to be a part of a committee. So, and the people who went to the PBIS training were automatically on the PBIS committee, and then it was, you know, Ryan's going to be on the community engagement and character ed and all those different things.
These are just my notes, you guys, I'm not gonna leave it like this, just so you know. So a building directed committee, in your guys' eyes, what would that be?
Not like that.
Is that leadership?
Leadership's
falls
already
under
stayed.
50.
Leadership is on the level
Six.
1.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep,
I think it'd be like ours is the community engagement team and there's a rail rally team, but
And a character-eye team, yep.
at the elementary, what would this?
PBIS.
Then, the curriculum and the math,
So, what did you say that one more time? PBIS?
curriculum base.
Okay, and so now, what can you think of that would fall into this?
I would say those would probably also be those building directed ones, but they would fall below the 20
Different
hours.
levels.
Okay, so
So-
we'll say directed,
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
same gist, just if it's
Yes.
below
Up-
whatever-
up to 20
whatever benchmark
hours.
we use, yeah.
Should we say board directed as well?
Sure.
I think
Yep,
so.
Either.
Mhm.
Either or.
And maybe have a minimum though, like if you meet once for an hour, you
Right.
don't get $250
Yeah.
bucks.
Great.
so in
Well,
my
then
mind,
you
this is
could have
gonna
a
be like
range, like-
safety committee,
Yeah.
again, it would, the,
Well, and if you did, you know, a minimum of one meeting a month,
Yep.
that would be 9 hours right there, right?
and we were saying hours for this one, or say that one more time, the hours?
Yeah, at 10 to 15 is what's listed in the handbook currently, so I would say like if you put minimum of 10.
Are we
10
assuming
hours
this
or
is
more?
falling outside of regular school hours?
Yeah,
Mhm,
if we need
mhm.
4
Yeah.
after school.
Yes. Yep.
Would this be like wellness committee?
Mhm.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah, although I don't think as wellness committee currently stands, we'd fit the
Criteria?
main- it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't meet the 10-hour minimum unless you had subcommittees that did.
They get started.
Because you've got 20
Yeah.
in the fall, or level 2. Right.
Plus no more.
Because if you say
Why
minimum
didn't
of
you
10.
want to set an hour
because-
stuff?
Right, by the time
Maybe
if you
say
put in
10
like one
to
event per person, it probably would get up to 10 easily.
That's why I'm asking for help on this one, I don't remember.
Is there some reason we didn't go for an hourly rate rather than some?
Managing wise, an hourly rate is just a nightmare on the
Oh.
back end to try to manage. On this, you know, we send out, and I say we, I mean Trish sends out, you know, to the building principals each fall, I need your list of committee members, I need your list on the leadership team, I need, and we get
It
that
just
those
makes it
fluctuate,
easy,
and then, you know, we have to, because what happens is legally, we have to split those,
Mhm.
because you have to be paid within 30 days of work. So we assume that with this being paid by monthly, that it hits you at some point.
I like it this way because it says, we appreciate what you're doing, this, we wanna give you a little compensation. So
Plus
it doesn't turn it into, I'm gonna log all my hours and be so focused on what I get and make sure I turn in this bill for that, just.
Yeah, and there's other things that we haven't removed that are still in there for curriculum work.
Right.
If you write a course or if you do something like that, that's has stayed.
Right.
This isn't replacing anything, this would just be modifying or adding something.
Outside.
So, safety committee, give me another example for this one. Anybody?
Can you, I'm wondering if that should be 10 to 20 hours? Because you've got building directed committees, 20 plus, and then building or board directed committee meetings or committees, 10 hours. Well, what if it's something that's 30 hours? So do we want it to say 10 to 20 and then 20 over 20?
10 to 20?
I mean,
10
it's
to
just-
20 and then 20 plus for
Yeah.
everyone.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay, 10 to 20 hours, 20 plus?
Yeah.
Can I just get one more for this one, for my,
I know.
What else do we have?
We said wellness committee probably would qualify
you're
for that.
going, okay.
Well, and I think that would give our group more of a chance to do something then, like people are more excited to go and say that's where I wanted to take my, because she is looking for that for next year. And we need to do more with it.
Especially if we can get some insurance first.
Well, and I
Well, I
like
like
the
about
garden.
family engagement.
Yeah, that could be.
Would that be what our community engagement is though at the top there in the next
Yeah,
one?
it just depends on how much time you
Yeah.
spend.
20+ hours.
Are we good with that?
So then the principal would have to manage what size these committees are?
They are definitely going to have to do that.
Just one page.
You know, we talked a little bit when we discussed this that, you know, we guess we earmarked some district money, and if they wanna exceed that, then it's gonna have to come out of building
Their paychecks.
Well, we could do that.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like businessman, right?
I think that's only fair.
You know, the safety committee, for example, I know that she has a structure where they meet once a month and they're required to sign in to, because right now the safety committee gets, I think, $25 per meeting that they attend. And if they don't attend the meeting, they have the option of doing some sort of work outside of that meeting to constitute the hour that they would have been there. Whether it's helping create the manual or helping plan the ALICE training or something like that. So I would see us going to something in that format, because I don't know about the wellness committee, but I do know that in the times that I've been there, that it's been very on and off of member or people coming and who's been on it and who hasn't. So it would put more consistency to the committees, I think, because you would say, well, you know, we do require that minimum 10 to 20 hours in order for you to receive this benefit. All right, so this is what I have for our proposal, or your proposal for May 7th. Is there anything else? We would probably polish up that $25 an hour for coverage and insert that in there as well.
We all have to serve on a curriculum group at some point. What's the format of the curriculum that would meet the hours? You know, like if I'm on science or social studies, I don't hit the 20-hour mark, so it's only on who's ever, you know, like who's active that cycle or something. Like it's just a cyclical thing or something. Because ELA has done a big one this time, but math hasn't done.
Yeah, we were supposed to start in January, we haven't started anything yet.
No,
It'll be next
so
year.
math is set for next year,
Okay.
either science or social studies, the year following that, and then whichever
So it
one.
won't be a yearly, I mean, it's gonna
It'll
have
be
to
a
be
rotational type of thing, and what I would hope is then we get into a 4-year rotation, so
Okay.
ELA would come up, you know, after it had been fielded for 4 years.
Looks good.
Who'd be willing to come and help pitch this at the personnel committee meeting?
I'll come.
We got Amy and Rhonda?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll if I can hear.
4:30.
4:30.
4:30 p.m.
4:30?
I'll send you guys invites.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Well, man, remember when we started this and it was like, this will be a big job. Thank you. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for your insights and your hard work. And, you know, my hope is that the employee handbook will be something that's reviewed annually. This will become part of the employee handbook. This is a really good place to start, though. You did a great job on this, so thank you very much, and let's roll it forward.
Are we looking at a CPI for next year then too?
0.13.
Again?
Okay, and we asked kind of last time, Shannon, so if people ask when these will go into effect, you said July, is that right? So the July.
New contract year.
Okay.
So you will receive, the board approved on Monday night contracts, but the contracts that you guys will get by May 15th, they won't have the dollar amount in them. It'll be exactly the same as last year. I don't believe your contracts last year had the dollar amount in them. So, because this isn't applicable yet,
So
That's
then
when
we'll,
insurance switches too, right? It's
July 1st.
July 1st.
Correct.
will new contracts be issued again after with the dollar amount? Will it just be a notification for people? to
I
know about?
anticipate it will probably just be a memo.
Okay.
I don't think we'll reissue contracts unless you feel like we need to.
Probably
on that one. Yeah.
One of the questions we asked last time, and just want to clarify, you said that this would become part of the handbook. Will it ever be reviewed by this committee again or another compensation committee, because we want to make sure that we take into account that lifetime licensure and then the non-existence of the PDP and whether credits is really the way that we want to roll
I
people
would
up
think that.
forward?
I think that would come
Yeah.
back to,
Okay,
I
because
think-
we have had questions about that, and for now, I've been saying, we've got this in place
Yeah.
because we don't know what it's gonna look like coming down the road, but
Until
we
they
may
give
look
us
at
some-
it again.
Yeah, until
Yeah.
they give us some guidance, I don't
Right.
think that we can.
Mhm.
maybe in a couple of years,
Yeah.
there'll be a real clear path. And then
Right.
I would see the board saying, receiving a recommendation saying, form a task force.
Simple
and
routine.
Work
Mhm.
on, work on this issue.
Yeah.
Are we gonna tackle it all overload in case that ever?
Well, the overload is in the handbook, right now. Wait, I should say, hold on, I thought it was. Because I know that we have had the conversations about it, and
Well, I guess that might be part of the compensation model that we.
oops, sorry.
The only thing I would say about that I think has, I mean, I understand it from a high school perspective because it says an overload at the secondary level based on guidelines for letter C. I think in the SPED department, because we've been really taxed in terms of staffing sometimes, there's a lot of SPED teachers who never get a prep, but it's not considered an overload, so they're not being compensated for that, and I hear them getting kind of frustrated about that. And then having to do all the paperwork at home at night. So I think we certainly can't tackle that right now, and I get that, but that's just something to be thinking about down the road, is that is a really hard to maintain SPED teachers anyway. Speech people, OT people, anybody in that department is really hard to keep them. And part of it's because the workload is immense and the paperwork has quadrupled in the last 2 years.
Half the time my wife doesn't even get a lunch.
Yeah, most of us don't.
All day, yeah.
We're doing it in the car on the way,
Yeah.
or,
That's
you know,
dangerous,
whatever.
Rhonda.
Yeah. What about the placements, like if people question what their status is on the matrix?
Right here, on this one?
Mm-hmm.
I guess, are we saying
Like if
based
people
off the,
have credits or whatever that they wanna bring forward, or,
based off of the survey that we sent out, where
Mhm.
I anticipate that we'll probably send them, there'll be lots of documentation coming out about this is where we see you, or this is what you reported to us.
right,
This is what we have in your file, this is what we need to verify in order to place you on the new salary schedule.
say yay or
I think people that are saying something's not matching up, we'll encourage them to set up a meeting and come in.
Is that what you
So, yeah, I guess is it coming like as a individual memo or something like, dear Wolf, this is where we have you on the schedule, is that?
It's gonna come out with, this is what you reported on the survey, this is what we see in your personnel file, this is where you would fall on the 2017-18 salary schedule.
And then if something doesn't jive from there.
Then we're gonna say,
set it up.
please come see us.
Yep, when you get that memo, it'll say, if you have questions or
Yeah.
what's reflected doesn't line up with what you think it ought to be, call them, let's set up an appointment. So you can sit down and review the material again.
You know, just an example, I think it was a typo, but somebody had typed in like 400 credits on the survey. Like, oh, you think based on that person?
I feel like I
and-
have 400.
Yeah, it feels like it, but based on that
But
person's
it's
age,
not.
I was like, that is virtually impossible to have that. So,
Do we
Yeah,
send
right.
credits to you?
New, not that it's something to Trish, but just wait until we give you we need to,
You'll ask for
yeah, we'll ask for what we
people to
need,
send them in.
yep.
What are we doing with those who are placed higher than what their years' experience?
You know,
when
you
they're
can
hired?
be moved down.
And you can't move down, but are they just gonna be held at that position until your years and credits match up to that?
And catch up to them, well, they would, there's only like 3 people.
That's, yeah.
And I think we probably should
That's
have that
typically what
discussion,
you, that's
yeah.
typically
Yeah.
what you do, and
Mhm.
you know, you'd still receive the CPI increase and all that, but not move
Not the ones,
up a
yeah.
scale.
I have one last question. I know I've got a lot, but, so with this salary grid, we're not going to put any restrictions currently on what people decide to take in terms of credits. So that might also, am I correct in saying that? So you can just go out and start taking credits if you want to move up this list, or you can apply for a master's, or are we at some point going to say, if you apply, I know when I had to apply for when I applied to do my master's, I had to get it approved.
Mhm.
It had to be applicable to what I was doing, and it had to relate to my license.
That would stay, we wouldn't grant credits for somebody going outside of unless their intent was to move into a different position within the district, but if they're going, I can't even think of a good example.
I'm not gonna go and take science credits.
Right.
Unless you
It
want
has
to
to
move to
be-
science,
or
unless
photography
your
credits.
intent was to move to science at some point, I mean,
Right.
which would be a conversation then that we could have.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but it could be at the point like where maybe somebody needs to take a praxis to be able to be recertified. Are we gonna grant them anything for doing that?
Or like in my case,
But I don't think that's necessary anymore, is it? No, you
Well-
don't need to take the praxis anymore to be certified.
no.
Well,
You
no,
could-
I'm just
You could
talking
add
about-
certification, so like under
Yeah.
my old license,
Okay.
I could have taken the chem exam,
Oh, I
and
get
then
what
I
you're
would
saying,
have
I
got
thought you said
licensed in
recertified in
chemistry.
their current,
Oh, no.
in their current.
But there would be no
role.
credits
No.
attached to it, but I would increase my licensure.
Yeah.
So currently, there's nothing in place for that kind of deal.
Right, I'm just saying, cause
Like a 3
because a few years ago, I had to take the practice to be able to teach physical science, which was,
Yeah.
you know.
I understand what you're saying now,
I'm just kinda wondering if they would be granting any credit, just credit equivalents like we do the PTPs to.
No, when we did the survey, it was, the feedback was clear that people were looking at a table that was credits
Right.
in years, not alternative.
But we said we were gonna give PDPs the equivalent of 6.
But a praxis, yeah, I just,
Okay.
this won't be perfect.
Right, oh, I know, I
And-
know.
And if we find down the line that lots of people are having to take a praxis because something's changed, then I think it needs to be addressed then. But there are not gonna be a lot of people that are dealing with that right now, and we won't have a contingency for everything, I don't think, so.
Right.
We're gonna say, this is a darn sight better than
Mhm.
what you have.
I think they're gonna be thrilled. Yeah.
I agree.
We can't cover all of it right now.
One thing before we leave, the sub cost, it would be my recommendation to go to 105 from
Mhm.
95 and present that to the personnel committee that night as well. That puts us in line with our direct competitors.
This
Wait,
is all
somebody-
better than I
And a
thought
hot-
we'd get to.
And a
I
hot
think
lunch,
it's
did I
better
see
than
that
a
on
lot of
the,
people.
there, that's kind of an.
Yeah, that you got a hot lunch free when you
Yeah,
sub.
that's kind of a, I don't know, I thought that was, oh, that's good. And a hot.
Paid $80, so.
I like it reversed. Mr. Z, he often brings in like, bringing a pork shoulder for us.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, so that was very nice.
So,
Oh, oh. Does he just let me?
No.
He definitely
Just
likes
let me rest.
Folder.
Just like
Yeah.
smoked meat.
He loves his high school class.
Wow.
Very nice.
That is
They did
nice.
all
We
the
came
favors.
to
We're good?
You only get him when he
Thank
gets
you.
the only one.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks.
leading this and
Yes.
doing this. People are gonna be
It was
really.
good. It was good.
Yeah.
We did a good job.
Got to bust out that old paper and make use of that.